Sounds of Health will be on site at Hamden Fest this year in Hamden, Connecticut at Town Center Park at June 8th. Be sure to stop by and say hello. There's pluses and minuses to all of it.
Yeah, when my generation, if a man started going bull, he wore a wig.
Yeah, I had an uncle who did that. Yeah,
he was embarrassed.
Right, yeah. Or the guys that tried to hold on to it as long as they could, and it was the comb over or whatever. I mean, there was lots of different styles for it. Yeah. I just get bored now because I don't have anything else I can do. So that's the hard part for me. I don't mind it. I don't mind the look.
You could buy your series of hats. You could wear different hats.
I do have hats. Yeah, that's true. I do have hats. Welcome back to our favorite part of the week. It's time to listen to Sounds of Health, where we share the stories, people, and resources that help others to improve their physical, emotional, and financial well-being. Whether you're a health warrior or a wellness rookie, you've come to the right place. I'm your host, Dave McNiven, and today I am thrilled to welcome the producer and host of Community Works, a local access TV show sponsored by North Haven Community Television, Bernadette Welsh. Bernadette, welcome to Sounds of Health.
Oh, thank you for having me, David. I'm so thrilled to be here.
That's great. I'm so happy to have you here. I actually have a short story to tell before we jump into all about you.
Oh, by all means. I'm intrigued. What do you have to say?
So I joined the Hamden Regional Chamber of Commerce the minute that I went into business for myself. And that led me to the alliance with the Mid-State Chamber of Commerce. And I went into business September of 2019, and just a few short months later, COVID hit. And it was a slap in the face for everybody, especially, I've spoken to a number of people who started a business around that time, like I did. And it was just scary. It was, it was a very scary time. Luckily, we all got through it. But one of the bright spots for me during that time was that the chamber kept doing the networking events that we did over Zoom.
Yes.
And we had the Alliance networking group that we were on, the CBN. And one of the bright spots for me was getting onto that meeting every other week and hearing your introduction.
Wow.
So you had such an energy. It was contagious to me. And being on Zoom, I don't love being on Zoom, especially when you're trying to network and do those things. But man, did you make it fun. So I just want to tell you, it was such a blessing to be a part of that group and to get to know you through it.
Well, thank you very much, David. I think having an intriguing intro to your business, how you represent yourself in your business really does make a difference, because what do we want? We want people to remember us.
Exactly.
And that's the way to do it.
Well, you are certainly memorable.
Oh, thank you.
And you always put a smile on my face, so I really appreciate that.
Oh, you're too kind.
Now, things have actually changed for you within the past few years that I've known you. But I actually would love to go further back, too, and just hear about how you got started and what brought you into the career that you had and now to being the producer and host of Community Works.
Wow. Well, that is an important way for people to get to know my healthy lifestyle. So I'm a member of Spring Glen Church as part of the United Church of Christ, and I was on their benevolence committee. Benevolence means that some pledge money comes in, and some of it goes to keeping the lights on and paying the staff, and the other goes to nonprofits.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So
I never knew that.
Our congregation gives a percentage of pledge to nonprofits. I was on the committee that decided who got the money and how much they got.
That's a lot of fun.
It was a lot of fun. And it was also a big responsibility to choose among the myriad of nonprofits that are in even just New Haven County.
Yeah.
But our church had a process. You had to fill out a form. You had to give us your $9.90, and we got to know the charity. And then we said yay or nay. And some of the people were members of our church who were like the CEO of New Reach, Kellyanne Day.
Yeah.
So that was a no-brainer. Of course, we're going to give money to Kellyanne Day. But then I thought, wow, a lot of people don't know what's really going on with nonprofits. Maybe I could do something about that. And before that, I also had an opportunity, thanks to my friend Peaches Quinn and the late Donna Marino, to be a part of a TV show called Got Girlfriends.
Got Girlfriends.
Kind of silly. It was kind of like we had a hot topic, and then we interviewed an important woman in our community.
Oh, that's great.
It was great. But because I did that, David, I got to understand how to do a TV show because I took a course through the New Haven station.
Yeah.
And I learned about camera and lighting and the computer graphics and what it took to put a show together. And when I got bored with Got Girlfriends, I started my own show.
That's fantastic. Now, during that time, when you were a member of the church and on the benevolent committee and then all of this, you had a career going too, right?
Absolutely. I was a full-time insurance agent, property casualty insurance I worked for a number of companies, David. I worked for the Pawson Group, and Dominic Contessa at Contessa Insurance, and that was sold to the John M. Glover Agency.
Sure. Yeah.
And I did that for over 25 years.
Oh, wow.
And that prepared me for just what are people all about?
Yeah, for sure.
What do they care about? What are they afraid of? Because you buy insurance protecting things that matter to you.
Yeah.
That's why people buy insurance. You understand from the health insurance perspective, David, that people have medical bills that they can't afford without insurance.
Of course.
So that prepared me in a different way. It was a way to earn a living, and I enjoyed it very much. But at 70, I said, you know what? I think it's time to let it go.
Yeah.
And
that's
so
amazing.
last year in April, I did.
That's fantastic. And I want to talk all about what you're doing now and your life now in this semi-retirement. It sounds amazing. But just before we do that, going back a little bit, I always say that there's no child that grows up saying that I want to be an insurance agent when I grow up.
No.
I think I have that in the beginning of most presentations that I do.
Because you and I do.
Right? I mean, that's not what we wanted to do.
No.
So when you were coming up, and tell me a little bit about how you got into that role. Like, what brought you to that?
Oh, wow. So I grew up on Long Island, born in Manhattan, grew up on Long Island, went to school, SUNY Buffalo in New York. And I thought I was going to be a lawyer because I love to argue with people.
Yeah.
And then, but I thought, well, what do you do to prepare that? So I got a degree in psychology. And so that part of my journey way back then was, we're all on a path, a journey, aren't we, David?
Yeah.
And so you do one thing and you do another thing. And then I met my husband there, and he got this job at Sikorsky Aircraft.
Yeah, great
So
job.
that brought us to Connecticut. And all of those things, again, bring me to where I am right now.
Yeah.
And the insurance agent job, again, I didn't plan to be an insurance agent, but after my first child was born, and she was kind of very independent little girl, and I thought, well, maybe I could work part-time. I started looking around what I could do with just this psychology degree, because obviously I never did become a lawyer. I never went to law school. And
Still like to argue, though.
I love to converse. Let's say I love to converse.
Perfect.
And so I answered an ad back in New York State for Combined Life in New York. It used to be called Hearthstone Insurance.
Yeah, sure.
And I actually went door to door.
Oh, wow.
With a book with insurance policies in it, knocking in there and saying, yeah, geez, I believe this will interest you also. And again, because I'm just so loving to meet people, a lot of people let me in. A total stranger knocking on their door. That got me into the insurance business. And then we came to Connecticut. I had 2 more children. I had to stop.
Yeah.
I stayed home and raised my kids.
So 3 kids.
I have 3.
Yeah.
I have a daughter was my firstborn. And then my sons were born later and here in Connecticut.
That's great.
And I did take time off to raise my boys.
Yeah.
But then when I was time to go back to work, I went back to what I knew.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So that's how I came to be an insurance agent instead of being a lawyer, or my other interest was always in theater arts.
Yeah.
And I did drama in high school, and I really enjoyed it. But again, it didn't seem practical to me.
Right. Sure. Yeah.
When you grow up one of 6 children in an Italian-American family, you think practical.
I guess so, yeah.
My father said,
that makes sense.
He never said, Bernadette never asked me for any money. I paid for college myself.
Yeah.
Don't ask for money. And so I learned that you had to support yourself. And
right.
So this insurance job just was a natural. And the other beauty, David, as you know, when you're married and you have 2 incomes, and you need 2 incomes here in Connecticut.
Yeah.
My husband worked at Sikorsky Aircraft, allowed me to be the kind of insurance agent that did not need to pressure people.
Yes. That's a huge difference.
It is.
I mean, a lot of people are very distrustful of insurance agents and they get a bad rap. But honestly, the ones that I know that are doing it right are some of the best people I've ever met, you included.
Oh, thank
You
you.
know, somebody that puts their mind at ease, it's not as much a sale as it is advising them, making sure they have what they need to protect what's theirs.
Yeah, and it's also it's that beauty of listening to people. What are they concerned about?
Right.
Because if we assume what people are concerned about, we make a big mistake.
That's
And
very true.
Alienates people as well. And all of those kinds of skills are valuable in what I'm doing now.
Yeah, that's great. I've always been told to never offer a solution until someone says they have a problem.
That's exactly right.
So you can't go in there assuming anything. You need to meet people where they're at and listen and go from there.
Absolutely. So that's how I became an insurance agent, even though that's not something I said I wanted to be when I grew up.
Of course. But I'm sure you were very successful at it.
I did all right.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. I
That's
did
great.
all right.
And then it's great to hear that you had a background in the theater arts, or at least an interest in that. We talk about that a lot here because Jason and I actually met at Southern Connecticut, where we were both in the theater program.
Oh, wow.
And I was an actor for about 10 years out of college. I tried to make a go of it. But then, kind of similar to you start having a family and you look at priorities and balance. And I certainly don't think that I gave anything up for my family, because that's what I always wanted to do, was have a family. The insurance business gave me the flexibility to be the kind of dad that I wanted to be, which I'm so grateful for. You know, but now having the podcast kind of feeds some of what I used to do with theater arts, and it seems like that's what you're doing with Community Works.
Absolutely. And then the other blessing that I have is that my church also has a theater arts ministry.
Oh, that's
So
fantastic.
I've been in productions up until COVID.
Yeah.
In a production every year with my church buddies.
Oh, that's so much
and
fun.
So it's fun. Again, it feeds the soul
Yeah.
to say that you could do something that brings you joy,
Yeah, for sure.
and not just about the money.
Yeah, of course. Yeah, you need that. You need those outlets.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So tell me, okay, so now you were on that committee, which is great because that kind of brought you into the world of nonprofit and learning more about these amazing organizations that are out there trying to make the world a better place.
Absolutely.
And for you to develop Community Works is just such a great idea. You had started that when you were still working, though, right? As
Oh,
the
absolutely.
insurance.
I've been doing community work since 2016.
Oh, wow, that's fantastic.
And I started off with the charities that I knew the best.
Sure.
Because it made it easy.
Yeah, right.
And I developed a formula for how to structure my show that makes it so easy to adapt it to whatever organization I have on the show. Because not all nonprofits are not all the same.
Of course, yeah, they're very different.
Some of them are like New Reach with helping with homelessness, and others are organizations that touch my heart, where a parent loses a child in a tragedy and creates a nonprofit to honor their child and heal.
Yeah.
And that is just one of my more recent ambitions, is to get more of that on Community Works, because people need to know that if a tragedy happens, there's probably a support group of some kind out there.
Absolutely, for sure. And there are so many people who, like you're saying, they have a tragedy in their life and they create an action around that. You know, that's part of their healing process.
It is.
And so many of these organizations have started that way.
Absolutely. And I've been very intrigued and encouraged by the moms and dads, the sisters and brothers who have overcome their grief or working through their grief.
Yeah.
I don't think you ever really get over it.
Of course, yeah.
Working through their grief by putting their energies into a nonprofit, helping others who suffered the same kind of loss. I did a show called Hope After Loss for women who have lost children, like even right before they're born or right after they're born or while they're still little.
Yeah.
What a hard thing to overcome.
Absolutely.
But there's an organization out there that does that.
Yeah.
So those are the kind of groups, David, that I feel very passionate about having them on the show and giving them that airtime. Because I like to say I give a voice to nonprofits.
Yeah. I think that's true. I think that's great. And where does the show air?
So right here in the town of North Haven, we have a wonderful community station called NHTV, North Haven Community TV. The manager is Walter Mann. He's a wonderful human being. He runs the station, has done that for many, many years. And my director, Victor Hogg, who does the technical stuff as you have, because I have no idea how any of this stuff works.
Right.
No, just let me do my people.
Yeah.
And so my directors, well, I've had a series of directors, and NHTV also offers internships to young people who want to learn how to do this sort of thing. And I'm surprised that more young people don't take advantage of it.
That's
but
fantastic.
NHTV does that. And they do my show, they do other shows. So the only thing you have to be careful of on a community TV station is that you don't try to sell anything. It's verboten. We don't do that.
Right.
So somebody say, geez, Bernadette, can I be on your show? I do this, I do that. And I think, no, I'm sorry, I can't do that for you.
Gotcha.
Because it's got to be a nonprofit. It's educational TV.
Sure.
And so that's what we're
makes
part
sense.
of. Yeah.
Yeah. And you said that you developed kind of a format that works for the various nonprofits that you have.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit about how you designed that.
Oh, thank you, David. So the most important thing before the show starts, after you welcome your guest, is to ask the person who's visiting, what is the mission of your organization? Mm-hmm. That sets the stage. How about a little bit of the history? Oh, that's interesting. And what programs do you offer? Oh, that's the next logical question.
Right.
They love talking about that. Then I usually like to say, is there a special event, something special that because of your organization improved the lives of somebody in our community? And that always, that's a heartstring thing.
Yeah,
it's just,
of course.
and then we let them put pictures up and we look at the pictures and, what am I looking at now? What am I looking at now? And that, because we're such a visual society.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
With very short attention spans.
That's very true.
And so seeing the pictures gives my viewing audience a real idea of what the charity is doing.
Yeah.
And then we let them talk about their fundraising, their special events, their website, and then if we have time, I say, well, why are you involved in this nonprofit? And before you know it, the 30 minutes is up, the tape is done.
Oh, yeah. Almost feels like there wouldn't be enough time.
Yeah, and sometimes it's not.
Yeah.
And sometimes people talk so quickly, Victor goes, Bernadette, you got another 5 minutes.
Oh, wow.
What do we do? So I have to improvise a little. I always have a few little things in my back pocket that I can use.
That's great.
And sometimes we end the show early because the person has nothing else to say.
Yeah.
And it would be silly to drag it out.
Yeah.
But most times Victor will say, Bernadette, wrap it up.
Yeah. That doesn't surprise me. I always thought that on this show, too. I was worried about, will there be any dead air? We haven't experienced that yet, right, Jay? I mean, I think for the most part, people have been really enjoying talking.
Oh, of course. If you're doing something you're passionate about, David, you could talk about it for a long time, as long as you're asking the questions that elicit the responses.
That's very true.
And then the other thing I'd like to say about my show that I really think is helpful for the community is that once the show is created, it becomes a Vimeo. Mm-hmm. That Vimeo becomes the charity's intellectual property as well as mine. Mm-hmm. So they could use that Vimeo any way they want. They could use it to recruit people to their volunteer part of their organization.
Yeah.
They could send it out to donors. They could put it on their website, other websites, sharing it around, because I can create the show for them.
Right.
And it will air in North Haven, Brantford, and North Brantford. Mm-hmm. But that's kind of like too small of an audience. Mm-hmm. So I say, now it's up to you.
Yeah.
I've given you something that I hope you'll use.
I think that's great. And the few episodes that I watched, I also really appreciated the fact that for the most part, they were evergreen. They were something that the organization can use year after year, too. It's not something necessarily that is going to just be for this moment in time.
And I'm striving to do that more and more, David, because, again, you wouldn't want somebody to just use a show until the fundraiser.
Right,
Then the fundraiser's over and it becomes useless.
Yeah.
So, I'm trying to do that more and more. So
you've been doing a great job with it. I've really been impressed with it, with the few episodes that I've watched. I'm going to go back and watch a few more, too.
Oh, thank you very much.
Now, how are you finding the nonprofits that are coming on?
Oh, that's a great question, David. So we all know that we need to network.
Yeah.
And even though I am not making any money by producing community works, I still need to go out there and find shows.
Yeah.
So people that I know from the Hamden Chamber of Commerce, Wow Radio in Wallingford has given me a bunch of great leads. And when I'm out and about, even at church, or I say, hey, I do this. Do you have any nonprofit people you could send me? And it just keeps coming.
Yeah.
I don't even have to. I mean, I tell people about my, Facebook page, and I talk about my show. But I don't. It's amazing, David. I don't really need to worry about that.
Yeah, that's great.
It's there.
Yeah.
It's there.
How often do you do them?
Sometimes twice a month.
Okay.
But in the summertime, summertime, I'm just going to do one show a month.
That makes sense.
Yeah. But if somebody twists my arm and says, "Oh, Bernadette, please come on, can you fit me in?"
Yeah.
As long as Victor and NHTV has a slot, I usually say yes. I mean, how am I going to say no?
That's great.
Yeah.
Do you have a fixed slot that you use, or do you change it based on who's coming on?
It's really based on the availability of the studio and Victor's schedule.
Okay. Yeah.
But most times it's Monday or Tuesday night. I ask my guests to be at the station by 6 o'clock.
Mm-hmm.
I get them all comfortable, like you nice guys did for me today.
Right.
And by 6:30, we're rolling. And at the end of the show, I take a Facebook picture to put on post for me. And by 10 o'clock at night, Victor has that Vimeo all set. He sends it to me.
Wow.
I take a look at it. The people are gone by 7:30.
Yeah.
But by 10:30, I actually have my show.
That's amazing.
And in the morning, I send it to my guests. And they say, "Thank you, Bernadette." And one lady goes, "I don't look at shows that I'm on." I said, "What do you mean? You're Columbus House? You're the CEO of Columbus House?" And I said, "Oh, no, I never look at things that I'm on." I say, "Well, honey, I'm going to look at it for you.
Yeah.
and if it's okay, we're going to air it."
Yeah.
But it's funny. People are so funny.
Yeah,
They're so interesting.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how it works.
That's great. That's excellent. And how far out are you booked?
I am booked now till September.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And the other nice thing, too, is that NHTV will recycle programs so that the people in North Haven, North Branford, and Branford don't have to watch the same show for a whole month. I mean,
Yeah.
it's ridiculous. They go, "Oh, I saw that one." So they recycle them a little bit for me so that the shows I do for the year are seen more than just in the month that they're.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah.
Okay. So they're airing multiple times throughout the year.
Yeah, and they have, I have a schedule. So on Wednesday, it airs at 12 o'clock, and Monday, it airs at 3 o'clock. And so they have a schedule for me. But see, that's not my primary focus. I want the Vimeo to be used.
Right.
Because that's the beauty
That
of it.
makes sense. Yeah. Because it can have a broader audience if, the organization is really pushing it out there.
For sure.
Yeah, that's great. Now, do you have any specific goals for community works? Are there things that you want to do that you haven't done yet?
I would really like to do things like we're doing here today, David, to let more people know that Community Works is out there.
Yeah.
I'd like to reach a broader audience. I'm thinking about how I can get my program on other media sites so that people, I did a show with the American Foundation for Suicide Prevention. Mm-hmm. We lost our cousin to suicide.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
Yeah, we're sorry too.
Yeah.
And we didn't know about the warning signs. Mm-hmm. And we didn't know that our cousin was in trouble.
Yeah.
And so the idea of getting this important information out about how to be, for your show, Sounds of Health, how you can have a healthy life and to realize that somebody's struggling.
Right.
And so many of my nonprofits are about that struggle that people have when bad things happen.
Yeah.
So that's one of my goals. How do I get the word out even more? My church has been wonderful. They put my show on our
That's great.
Our church has out a weekly email, and there's a little link. Watch Bernadette do one of her shows.
Very nice.
Yeah, so stuff like that's my real important goal.
Yeah, we share in that because there are so many resources and things that are out there to help people that people aren't aware of. And you can be going through something and feel so disconnected and so lonely, thinking you're the only person who has ever experienced this. But it's important to realize that you're not, and that there is support out there. Or, going through with what we're doing here, it's just a matter sometimes of just showing people an option. You want to get healthy. Are there certain things that you want to learn about? Are there certain things that you want to do? That's really what we're trying to do here.
And my involvement with Community Works is part of my health journey too.
Yeah.
Because I'm doing something that I enjoy and that I feel is helping others. I'm not an insurance agent anymore. Do I want to sit home and watch TV? No. I want to continue in my senior years to do something that's meaningful. And I think that keeps seniors healthy.
I agree. And so you're at the point. So retirement for you is the ability to choose when you want to work instead of having to work.
That is so true.
Yeah,
you know.
that's exciting.
I love getting up in the morning and saying, what day is it? Oh, it's Wednesday. I've got David's show. And after David's show, I'm going to go to the gym. And tomorrow I'm going to go to dance class because I love ballroom dancing.
Yeah.
It's one of my passions. But, to keep active and healthy. I watched my mother, David, at the end of her life, die in front of the TV set, slowly but surely. She didn't want to go out. She didn't want to go to the senior center. She didn't trust people. She was suspicious and frightened.
Yeah.
And I just said, I just don't. My mom did what she wanted to do, but I said, Mom, why don't you go to the senior center? She said, no, Bernadette, why don't you just mind your own business and leave me alone? But I didn't want to do that.
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I think that retirement, we've talked about this in a couple of episodes, is different than it used to be.
For sure.
And, people always thought, I worked so hard all my life and now it's my turn to rest. Well, you worked so long your whole life. Now it's your time to enjoy the fruits of that labor. And there are things that you can do. I love that you have this whole career that's continuing into retirement. I think it's fantastic.
Well, thank you. And if there's anything I think a senior should think about, even while they're not a senior, we all should think about this. You identify, let's say, like my husband is an aerospace engineer. Is that the only identity that you have?
Right.
Because then when you retire, your identity is gone. I'm hoping that people will, thanks to your show and other information that's out there, develop the things that you like to do other than your job. So that when the time comes that you retire, or if something happens and you have an accident, and now all of a sudden you're in a wheelchair, is there something else that you like to do? What do you like to do? Is it photography? Is it painting? Do you like poetry or going and visiting our national parks? Or do you love lighthouses? I mean, find things that interest you, because then if something happens where you have to change what you do from day to day, there are other things you can do.
That's a great point. I think that's so important for people to realize. It's part of why I like asking people about what brought them, what was the journey you had before you got to whatever it is you're doing? Because what you're doing now doesn't completely define you.
No.
You're defined by all of the experiences and all of the things that you've done. So you're a great example of this, because you're mixing in the fact that you had an interest in theater arts, and you were an insurance salesperson, and you had a family, and all of these different things that now have brought you to where you are today. And I think that's one of the messages I do want to kind of get out there with this show, is that there are so many opportunities. You can design your life.
Yes, you can. And the other thing I like to do is not only to be physically active, but to be mentally active, to challenge your mind. So right now, because I'm an Italian American, I'm studying Italian.
That's great.
Hey, come sta? And you say molto bene. But to learn a language, even though it's so hard as adults to say, I got to start from scratch. I'm high school again. But challenge your mind. Do crossword puzzles. Do wording. Do something intellectual. And you will keep your mind active. And doctors tell me that's a great way to try to prevent dementia.
For sure. Yeah, it's so important. And learning another language you can do at any time.
Anytime?
It's something I actually studied in Italy when I was in school.
Cool.
So I spent a full month over there studying. And at the time, I could get by. I understood enough. I could speak enough to kind of get by. I traveled all over the country. It's all gone now.
It's in there. No, David, it's
somewhere
in there.
in there.
You just have to bring it out a little bit forward in your brain. No, it's there.
My son is in Italian now in high school, so he's starting to be able to speak it as well. So hopefully we're thinking about someday getting over there, and I'd love to kind of pick it back up.
Traveling is another way that you could stay active and challenge yourself, get out of your comfort zone.
Yeah, right.
Going to a foreign country is not really it's fabulous, but it's also can be a little disconcerting.
Of course, yeah.
A different language.
Yeah.
What are the customs? Are there people in the street that might accost me? What's this things? What should I do?
Yeah.
So, but it's still worth it, right?
Oh, absolutely. It also gives you a whole other appreciation for what's out there. I mean, we don't all live the same way. There's different customs and there's different things, the lifestyle in Italy is very different than the lifestyle here.
They even live longer than we do, David.
They do. Yeah.
They do.
Yeah, well, it makes sense. They take more time to rest and recuperate.
They do.
Yeah.
They do. They rest during the day, and they eat smaller portions of food. And you hardly see on the streets people that are
Right.
terribly overweight, because it's a life balance thing. That's their culture.
Yeah, so you learn so much through travel.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Americans sometimes can get very self-absorbed in thinking that
Right,
we
yeah.
have the best way of doing things, but not necessarily.
Yeah, that's very true. So just within the context of this conversation, which has been great, you've mentioned a number of things that you're doing to stay healthy. But do you have a certain schedule or practice that you do in order, what are the things you're focusing on each day to kind of maintain your health and longevity?
Well, one of the things I have to do, because I am by nature a little lazy, is schedule it. So I have to schedule my time to be with my trainer. I have an appointment.
Yeah, right.
I have an appointment with my dance instructor. I have my Italian class twice a month on Saturday mornings. I have to get my other things, my housework done, my gardening. I love to garden.
Yeah.
So, if you schedule things, that's one of the things that helps me. I don't know if it would help everybody,
Yeah.
but it helps me because I have a schedule. Otherwise, you could say, I meant to do it.
Yeah.
The road to hell is paved with good intentions.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, so scheduling to me is important.
That's a great tip.
You do it when you're working. Mm-hmm. Why not do it when you're retired?
Yeah, that's really important.
I'm going to chime in right there.
Yeah,
I couldn't
go ahead.
agree more. It holds me accountable.
Yes.
Because when I miss an appointment or miss a schedule, there's a consequence to it, So it holds me accountable for whatever I exercise. So, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and I'm shocked you described yourself as lazy because I would never expect that. But it does make some sense. I feel like that's my nature as well. I have kind of a lazy nature, but I am always on time for the things I schedule. I'm kind of like OCD in that way. I don't like being late to things. So that's a great tip that I think I'll incorporate is put it on the calendar because then you have to do it.
Absolutely. And it's just stops you from being complacent. Let me replace lazy with complacent. I could stay home today.
Right.
But no, I'm going to go see David McNiven and I'm going to tape a podcast. It's like, it's on the schedule.
Yeah.
So that's my biggest tip is get yourself out there. And one way to get yourself out there is make an appointment.
I think that's a great one. And I'm glad you did today because it's been so great having you here
Thank you,
and
David.
talking to you about all of the wonderful things that you're continuing to do. Community Works is something I think everybody should check out, learn about these nonprofits that Bernadette is identifying and helping to spread the word on. I think it's a great resource for people, and I hope people will check it out.
Oh, thank you, David. And you're helping to do that for us, and so we so appreciate the exposure. Thank you so much.
It is my pleasure, and thank you for taking the time. I know you've got a busy schedule and things to do today.
Yeah, gotta go to the gym.
Yeah, I appreciate you being here.
Okay, David.
All right, thank you, Bernadette.
Thank you so much.
Sounds of Health is brought to you by Nutmeg Insurance Advisors and recorded at the offices of Nutmeg Advisory Group. The podcast is produced by Jason Carubia and Dave McNiven with music by Rob Hames. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, X, and wherever you listen to your podcasts. Your support means a lot to us, and we appreciate it when you like, subscribe, and leave a review. If you know someone who you think should be a guest on the show, please email us at soundsofhealthpodcast@gmail.com. Each week, we spotlight the stories, people, and resources that inspire and motivate others to improve their health, and we are just getting started. Help us to share these sounds, and don't keep us a secret.